Welcome to the Heartwork podcast, where we delve into stories, struggles, and triumphs of entrepreneurship, leadership, and personal growth. I'm Dr. Sara.
And I'm Dr. Marisa. We're here to guide practitioners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and those just navigating the complexities of life on a journey of discovery that explores the dance between passion and strategy, heart and hustle.
With candid conversations, insightful interviews, and plenty of laughs, get ready to uncover how leading with heart can transform your business and life. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Heartwork podcast. We're so excited. Today, we are going to get in and kind of get tactical and really practical about how we create space within our teams so that we are effective, efficient, and we are bringing the most excellent service to our community. And this is really going to come down to some of the trainings that we've created, some of the huddles that we create, and really kind of then also how it's grown within that practice. And so just in general for us, like at least in our practice, like we have always held a Monday morning meeting. And that is something to where this is basically my team gets there at a certain time of the day. We have an arrival time. They basically spend the next 30 minutes getting prepared for the day, for the shift, where everything is very specific, very tasked out, essentially. And then we all come back together. And for us, it is a 25-minute appointment. We start at 10:30, we meet at 10:05. And so this is basically where we are going over everything that's on our schedule for that day, where we are looking at every single separate appointment that person is basically, we have one person that is going over every single detail of that day based on that shift and where they are slotted for that day. And then for us, we have also built out like a things to do sheet that we work through. So we go over a little bit of some wins after we've gone through just the tactical side. We go over some wins. We go over who do we need to take care of that week? Like who needs some extra care if there's somebody that's had some loss or maybe going through a really hard time that is just on everybody's forefront of their mind to know that, hey, this person needs some extra love. We have a care package that they may need or something like that. We also then will go over a very specific, like what events that we're planning for that week, what things do everybody need to know on that they're aware of for that Monday that we've also built out for the month, whether we're celebrating or we're promoting in the office. And then something we've incorporated just as a doc team is we basically do a training every Monday morning for like 5 minutes. That's something that is either centered around leadership, centered around like the philosophy of chiropractic or just the like something about chiropractic in general. Sometimes we'll do a science day training and it's like a 5 to, again, 7-minute little moment. And we just rotate us 3 docs and to kind of make sure that every morning they're kind of getting something from us leadership wise or just chiropractic education wise. So that's a fun one.
Wait, so you do that, like your doctors do that for your team, not your doctors doing it for each other.
No, right. Yeah. Our doctors are doing it for our team in our Monday morning huddle.
Okay. Got it.
Prior to that, I should actually, so one of my main team members that like Sunday night, she will send out a Monday morning, I don't remember what she calls it, Monday morning memos or something like that. And then she will actually send out an email that basically lists out everything that we're doing for that full week as well. So that everybody, at least, because obviously we go over it in a Monday morning, but they don't always remember everything all the time, right? So it's like the email will list out everything so that they can go back and reference it for what's happening, who potentially is out for the week, who's having a birthday, who's celebrating an anniversary for team, whatever that may be too. So the list
is this sent to a personal email or is this something that you guys have on like a Monday board or something else in the office accessible?
That would be just to our personal team emails. That is getting.
Oh, your team. Okay. So
team emails. Yeah.
Their work emails.
Correct. Yeah.
Got it.
So that's our like big weekly meeting. And you do something similar as that, right? As well, right? So you set the week as well on like a Monday morning.
Yeah, ish. Yeah. We have a smaller team. So right. I feel like we can talk about like small team stuff and how I navigate that, but it's the philosophy is the same. Just getting everybody on the page. Monday mornings, we're always meeting earlier in the office just because there's more things to do after the weekend, turning on all the computers versus just having them on sleep. Like there's navigations, but with you like leading a team of you plus doctors, plus team leads, plus team, there's a lot more nuances and obviously changes that go in through the day to day. And you guys do a lot more in your weeks than we have the capacity just because we don't have that same level of team.
Right.
Yeah.
So for those that do have a bigger team, especially if you have a doc team, this was something that we took in that just from some other people, but also just made it our own. When we come in on Monday mornings, we actually come in a little bit earlier than the rest of our team, just so we have time to go over cases. And so we come in, we get everything set up, and we basically, because we share all patient care in our office. And so we're not splitting different patients. So I may not see somebody for a week and I'll come back and adjust them the following week. And so we want to make sure that we're on task and just have understanding of what's going on for every single person in our practice. And so on Mondays, that's a day for us to really take in, and we have a Slack board that we'll put through like, hey, this happened for this person. Like we're always putting notes in, obviously in each person's file, but also at the same time, if they're a harder case. And then, so we come through, one of our first things that we're always doing is we're going back through every single reassessment that we had the following week, and that we're collaborating. It's like, what happened for this person? This person's scan changed this way, this technique needs to change, or this type of a concern came up for this person. And so we always go through that. Some of them are super easy. Sometimes we sit on them for 2 seconds and we just kind of move on. This person had this, they did great. We need to we just make sure we all have eyes on it. And then we will go over any upcoming plans that are basically we've been building. We have upcoming people that are basically having a report of findings for that week. And then we also will set time aside to make sure that we are going through a specific, we'll always go through every single case, but sometimes every case has its own, especially when you're working with like neurodivergent or like supersensory kiddos. But we go through harder cases and make sure that we're really like studying and making sure that we know what's going on for that person in that case. And then we will also in that, we talk through, okay, this is what we can expect throughout that person's care. So this person may be coming in with this, and that these are the soft signs we want to expect, so that we're all kind of in that same language bubble a little bit. When we are onboarding a doc, we will also do technique training, and we will add some of those things in. So there's ways that you can also maneuver those meetings around a little bit. So it gives us time to really make sure that we're staying on top of what we're doing, who's in our practice, and making sure that we're on the same page for doctors as well. So, and that's before we go into our team basically Monday morning meeting, before we do it all together. So that's our Monday. I know that sounds like a lot of information on a Monday, but that's how we basically get everything set up for the week to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Totally.
We always do every single shift, depending on how you run your practice, we're open for shifts, and then we close, and then we come back open for another shift. And so we always meet 15 minutes also before a shift to just make sure that we go over each case, so that everything that's on the schedule, that every single person is knowing what's going on, so there's no confusion for what the schedule looks like as well. So, and then we open our doors immediately when we open our doors, or when we say we're going to open at the same time. So those are just throughout just the natural rhythm of our scheduled stuff. Anything to add on your side?
I mean, again, the philosophy is the same. I think it's important to make sure that your team is already on board, but even more so if you have a smaller team, because you may assign roles, but the roles might blur based off of what actually goes on in that day, right? If you have someone that's sitting at the front desk and then someone who's sitting in the front office as an evaluation role, for example, but all of a sudden the front desk gets innovated, you have someone that's checking out with your front desk person, and there's 6 stop managers, or what we call see the front desk notes that get sent to that patient when they scan in to come into the office, and they're just 3 people waiting there, nah. Get out of the front office, Ewan, you're going to the front desk, you're taking that role. And if they don't have the context or know what's supposed to be handled with that particular person in front of you, then they're trying to scramble, and it's again, not a great service. So we will always meet 15 minutes before the start of each shift as well. And either myself or the person that is that kind of front desk role will take through the schedule for that afternoon, through the specific appointments, through any special things we need to tell practice members as they come in, and go from there. And their roles will shift to shift. Their roles will change shift to shift. And so that helps them not deal with burnout. Nobody's in the same role every single time. I mean, there's obviously consistencies, but with a small team for us, if someone's constantly in that first evaluation role and is seeing the new patients and is doing evals and they're doing that day in and day out, like you're dealing with a lot of people and sometimes you just need a break. So having an opportunity to just sit at the front desk is like really nice, just being greedy and just like greeting, not greedy, excuse me, just greeting people and just celebrating them and asking them about their day and what's going on in their life. It's just kind of a refreshing, like not clinically relevant, just chill connection point. For me, I'm the only current doctor. So like I'll just look at the schedule for that day myself prior to my team coming into the front office for our huddle. And we'll just get on a page of like, okay, who's actually coming in today? Who did I, just do a reevaluation with that I need to do some touch points on what we saw on their reevaluation? Who needs extra table talk? Who might need more time? Where am I going to be really efficient with my adjustments and communication? And there might be a lull where I could either like make a phone call I need to, or do a Loom recording that I need to, whatever that looks like. Yeah. And then for us right now, we do trainings with our team on a weekly basis every Tuesday. I do it at noon usually, sometime between noon and 1, we get together and we'll either have a specific topic that we're training on that day, or if I have like a newer team member that's still working through some of the training material, and let's say there's other things I can do, I'll have one of my team leads train with that new person on that stuff. And then I will either work with another team member on something that we need to do in the office, or we'll handle some of my own personal like doc tasks. And then we come together usually for that last at least 45 minutes to an hour and do just kind of like a round table. What's been going well? What do we need to improve? What kind of systems are sticky? What's going on with patients that week? Or we'll talk about that specific topic and have everybody kind of share what's been going on with it. Run through the lowdown of things that they say, ways that they approach that situation, whatever it may look like, kind of the topic of the week. And we go from there. We do start too before every shift. After we get done talking about the schedule, we'll say gratefuls for the day, just to, have an opportunity to like express gratitude for ourselves, for our lives, for the things that we're doing, so that we're walking into that shift with more of just a positive mindset and framework. And then at the end of each shift, depending on kind of my team's needs, we'll adjust pretty frequently. And while we're adjusting, we'll talk positives. So like, what was something positive that you heard today? What's something positive that a team member did? Was it something that you heard from a practice member? We have a Slack channel of positives so that if they hear things during shift, or if I hear things in the adjustment room during shift, and I have a moment, we'll share it with each other and then we'll talk about it later that night. But even if like a team member saw another team member like go and help a mom with a crying baby without being prompted, or someone shared, I had the most incredible first experience in your office. This really is a special place. Just being able to share that with the rest of the team, even if they weren't involved in that, is really special. And at the end of a long and trying day, it gives you again, like, this is why we do this. This is why we're here. This is why our impact is our impact. I will once a month do a monthly like one-on-one meeting with my team. And I feel like we've touched on this a little bit before, but it just gives me an opportunity to ask them about what's going on with them personally in the office, other team members, the practice members, and then me, and what are ways that I can improve? What do you need from me? Are there things that I can do to continue to make sure we all thrive and are working the way that we need to work? So those are ways that we work through things. I'm starting to delegate more things to my team. So like I do have a team member that's working on getting our email marketing going and our blog posts on our website. So I have certain times where she's coming in even earlier on Tuesday mornings. So that's a touch point that I have with her. I have another team member that's starting to track more of our KPIs and our practice statistics and where we're getting leads from and what their conversion rates are, et cetera. And so she comes in on Fridays. So if I'm there marking x-rays or doing other things in the office, we have a touch point, or we might get together for a coffee or for a walk or something and just talk about things we need to get done. Outside of the one-on-one times, if I have other team that's doing those higher tasks or other tasks, we just have like pretty frequent weekly check-ins. I honestly love meeting with my team one-on-one each month. I have the capacity right now to do one-on-ones, but as we grow, that's going to have to transition out to me meeting with my team leads and them meeting with other like team that's, kind of assigned to them or working in the roles that they're working in, because it's unsustainable for me to meet for a half an hour with if I have 10 team members as you do, right? Doesn't mean that we won't do reviews on at least a, 6-month or yearly basis individually for a longer period. But when it comes to those kind of quick touch points, right now I have the capacity to do it once a month, which is a beautiful way to make sure we're staying ahead of any tension points, whether it be within our team culture, or whether it be with the practice.
And so I'll just talk a little bit about how I've adapted ours, going from a little bit of a smaller team to a bigger, just kind of what she just talked about, because like what you're talking about. I'm like, I remember the days where we were doing very similar, like where our Tuesday trainings were we're very similar. Marisa and I have a similar schedule, but ultimately I would encourage you guys, if you are not meeting with your team on a weekly basis to where you're providing space for training, or you're talking about what's necessary, especially if you're in a chiropractic world. Like, we are the ones that know chiropractic so much. At the same time, your people don't always know it, So it's like, it's an opportunity to be able to really teach and train and all that type of stuff too. So I used to be the one that would lead every single Tuesday meeting. And a couple of years ago, it got to a place where I'm like, Lord Almighty, this is wild. Like, I'm planning all these different things and it's crazy. So one of my main CAs, she is currently our office manager now. And she basically took over organizing those meetings and what they look like. Doesn't mean I wasn't there. Doesn't mean I didn't help with some of the things to get them prepped for, but she was the one that organized them and led them. And so our Tuesday meeting, and basically our look at it, has now also evolved to where we have topics that we are covering each month. The first Tuesday of every month. So this could be whatever day that you choose out of your week, like that you're doing your big meeting. We do what's called our town hall meeting. So this town hall, we're covering big wins from the past month. We're going over everything in our office that we're getting prepared for the following month. So it's basically, what did we celebrate in our past month, and what are we future casting for the next month, and for the current month, I'm sorry. And so we're looking at all the wins, and then we go through each system. For us, it's external and internal marketing, social marketing. And then we also look at any systems that need to be addressed for as a whole, forecasting in for that month. And so that's a very specific meeting. Sometimes we can get in and out pretty fast, but we typically schedule enough time for an hour for that meeting. And then our next week of the month, we do what's called our growth meeting. So this is where we have our internal and external teams. And so because our team has grown, some of my team members like doing more of the external stuff. Some of my team members really like all the internal events. They like the decor. They like the creativity around that. So they're on our internal team. And so they will split up. They will go over, okay, we are planning for the next 3 months. These are the things that, like, for us personally, we are getting ready to celebrate an anniversary, right? We're getting ready to celebrate a birthday coming up, and we have theme changes that happen in the office. So the internal team is planning that. External team is planning our professional meetups. They're planning events that we're doing, that we're getting ready to do, any of our workshops that we're hosting as well. And then after we've had the time to just get nitty gritty, hey, this is what we need to do. These are the tasks that each person is responsible for, and go from there. Then we will all meet together for the last 15 minutes of the meeting. And these are about an hour and a half. So all these Tuesday meetings are about an hour and a half of time. Sometimes they can be shorter if we get through it, but we typically schedule enough time for an hour and a half. And so for the last 15 minutes of that, on that growth meeting, we'll come together, and the leads of that will just go through, this is what we're planning, this is what we're doing, just make sure everybody is on the same page. And then they will also send out an email afterwards to everybody's personal work email, so that everybody knows what's on the schedule for the next month at the same time.
So question, when you have your team split up for that, right? You have a specific assignment role too, or do you, what are you as the CEO doing during that time? And then do your other docs also participate on those teams, or are the docs doing their own meeting? Is it just you that's
a great question.
Bounce between two?
So that growth meeting, I'm actually not there. So we have team leads that are over the internal and the external team. One of my associate docs is over the external team, and one of my other team members is over one of my lead team members is over the internal team. Dr. Bridget, which is our clinical director, she kind of oversees both of them. So she's the one, she'll kind of bounce back and forth to make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page, mission and vision wise. I typically will come in at the last like 15 minutes just so I have an understanding of like, okay, what'd you guys think through? If I have any questions, if they need to get approval from me, that type of stuff. But that's typically where I'm just doing my other CEO stuff at that time.
Okay. So you utilize the time. So at least one of those monthly Tuesdays.
I'm not there.
That's an extra CEO day for you. Yeah.
Okay. And then the following week is what we basically call like a systems week for the CA team and the doctor team. And so the CA team will meet separately by themselves, and then the doctor team will meet by ourselves. And so we basically created an outline for everybody so it is consistent, so that my office manager has a way to basically know that like these are the things that we're hitting, these are the objectives that we want to make sure we're covering, and the same thing for us doctors too. So we always go through wins of the week, of the past month, personal and professional speaking within the business. I always want to celebrate wins. We always want to talk about the things that we're grateful for, like you were saying. So we go over that, and then we go over, I want them to also think about and make sure that they're celebrating it with their people. So I want them to highlight something that they saw that a team member or a doctor did well, and I want to know that. So we celebrate that. And then we will then go over like a teaching, basically, whether it be a training, something that either I typically come with some type of leadership thing that I am wanting them to be able to just learn or discover or go through. And then I'll provide space basically to where we have an actionable, like I ask them what their gaps are that they're noticing. And then I want them to come to me with what is the solution and what are the things that they see that will help those gaps. And so then basically is a place for them to ask a lot of questions to me, because they don't always get time to me as well. So, like I see them a lot, but it's not always like we can just talk about system stuff. So, and then the CA side does the exact same, to where Kendall is literally going over wins. The team, the beautiful part about my CA team is then they will leave and say, hey, these are my action items for this past month. And I'm going to go into, this is what I did this past month. And then this is what I'm working on, and also what I'm going to be working on for the next going forward as well. So they have the same format, and it's just led by my office manager. And then the last week of the month is basically a social media meeting. So everybody on my team will be a part, at least at that point, not everybody will be a part of that social media meeting. So sometimes some of them will have one meeting off a month, essentially. So I love that your puppy is in the view right now. If anybody's watching this, gets to see her golden, beautiful retriever. So
he's feeling lonely.
He's so cute. So then our social media manager will lead that one and make sure everybody's on the same page for that. So that's our monthly. And then within a month, I also have built in what I call our leadership monthly meetings, to where I will meet with my leadership team once a month as well. And this actually currently it lands on our growth meeting. Sometimes it lands on our CA like system time. But this is basically, again, where I will come and bring in leadership training, come build in mindset. Basically, we're sharing something that's so much more like just leadership development. But then we'll work through very similar. It's like, hey, what were some of your wins? What are your wins within leadership, right? What are you working on within leadership? What are some of your questions? What are some of the personnel things that you're really struggling with within that leadership? So that gives them a chance to come to me with a lot of questions that they don't have a chance to, and haven't had a chance to talk to me about throughout that month. Right. They know they can come talk to me earlier than that, but a lot of times they will save it. Like, especially if it's not super urgent, like if it's not something that's on fire, they can wait. Mm-hmm. So it's a way for me to really build in personal development and leadership development for my leaders. And so I love that meeting. That's one of my favorite ones, because it really gives us time to really nail down a lot of different things, and they get to ask a lot of questions. So just thinking about it, on the 5-week months, that's where we put in a science day. So once a quarter, we will always do a science day, to where it is basically, we'll do a training. Sometimes we do Jeopardy. Sometimes we do, and it typically is a fun one, to where we are doing some type of like fun team thing, but it always will revolve around chiropractic and a fun sciencey type thing. So
I remember being a precepting doc in your office and working with Dr. B and creating a TRT science day. TRT is a chiropractic technique, torque release technique.
Yes.
So those are always fun. It's fun to get the team involved,
fun.
create like a little prize scenario, little trivia or something to see what they retained.
Right.
Like it's just fun. Yeah.
Well, I think that's like these meetings are so beautiful and so intentional and tactical to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that you're also providing opportunity for feedback and then also just like continued development for your people. But they all don't have to be freaking boring. You know, you can make them fun.
Yeah.
You know, like
Agreed.
We've done Family Feud before. We've gone out to a park before. We've done, you know, like you don't always have to do it in the same location. You can change it up. You know, like it doesn't always have, like I meet with my meetings a lot of coffee shops or we'll go to lunch or, you know, it doesn't always have to be the same, like boring, you know, nobody wants that at the same time.
Right. Well, and I feel like too, as our team grows, especially if you add on more docs, like the docs are going to talk to the docs about the clinical stuff.
Right.
And then the team's going to talk to the team about the system stuff, but they're not always mutually exclusive.
Right.
And so when, especially from the doc role, when you get to share a little bit more of like the clinical and science, especially if your team is doing some of the process where they're patient facing and like explaining about what you're doing and that patient has a question, like how cool, like I know my team feels super excited and they feel so empowered when they get to answer a question because they've either heard me answer it or they were trained on, you know, how to communicate a certain concept, for example, and that practice member like is like, yeah, that makes total sense. And they're like, yay, like I felt confident I did it, like I communicated.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, my team, we were a little understaffed this week in the sense of we just had team that was taking vacations and beautiful trips and it was amazing, but I had to go to the front desk at some point and like run some payments and like schedule doctor reports and stuff. Yeah. And we had a family come in and they have two younger children and the one kiddo, we'll just call him Stan or something. But Stan goes in and is like, what are you doing at the front desk? And I was like, buddy, like this is just sometimes how practice goes. I had to come up to the front desk. It's awesome. I get to say hi to you first versus waiting to see you in the room. And he's like, it's so weird seeing you in the front.
Those moments will happen for sure.
They will, right? And then sometimes, you know, if I have a team member in flowing with me through the adjustments, you know, a practice member may talk to them or ask them about like, hey, I'm starting this new exercise regime. Like, I know it's only been our first week of being here under care and Dr. M told me not to do everything and anything right from the get-go because we're just starting, but I'm really interested in this. And my team can, you know, take an opportunity to re-educate on like, I'm so excited for you. I love how you have that motivation. Any movement of your body is really great. Make sure you're not just jumping from 0 to 100, you know, or like, you know, just giving some practical feedback and advice when in other situations they might have said, well, you really should talk to Dr. M about that. And then it doesn't become like an inclusive environment, right? There's always going to be that level of, you know what, I don't have your schedule in front of me and my team is going to be so able to help you at the front desk with that in the same way that, you know, they're going to say, you know, that's probably a best clinical question for Dr. M. I'll make sure to write that down so she has the opportunity to either give you a call or shoot you a text about it. But when you do get to answer those in-betweens, like sometimes it's just really nice and your team feels really empowered and they take more ownership over what they're doing because they understand more. So like the science days, I love it because I feel that if they're in like, I hire the team that's interested in learning and understanding about the body because they want to.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best part for us is like, we love those because we get to have a lot of fun with it. Right. Totally. And like, we try to have a lot of fun no matter what we're doing, but they're a fun way to be able to really instill a lot of ownership at the same time and just further understanding too. So yeah. One last little thing I wanted to add. So one of the things and again, these are where also you can test this and what works for you in the season of your life and your practice. So this is me with a team of in person 9. I have one remote person. So we have a total of 10, including myself. And so this is just how we're developing into where I don't have to be in the office all the time and leading a lot of this stuff, but this may not be where you're currently at. So take it with a grain of salt, right? What's going to work for you? And sometimes maybe you're in just a like you're in a building phase. So all you are doing is just training, 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 because that's all that you can do, right? Like, and maybe you're in more of a, again, just a development stage. Now you're just developing your team. So then it is more of, again, you take the opportunity to like give leadership opportunities, you give leadership teachings, like you can change it up and make it work. And so, because one of the things that we noticed that we just changed, so our growth meeting, we've always separated it, like I was saying, and we still do that. But one of the things that my team was like, they would love to hear more from you as a whole, because I don't always see them on that growth side for like vision and some of that. So once a quarter, they have asked me to basically come into that meeting. We're all going to meet together. Or sorry, this would be with our like doc team and our CA when we look at system stuff, but same thing. So basically I come all together and I ask the team a couple, like, again, just vision. Like this last time we asked them a question of like, what is it that you are most excited about for us moving forward? And what are you like looking forward to the continued growth and the impact within this community? But then I asked them, like, out of a scale of 0 to 10, what is your basically like tap out commitment level at the moment? Like, are you at a 10 or are you at a 0? Or are you in between? And I want to be able to, and we're going to talk about it. So we did it in a big group, and it was just a way for us to kind of like understand, because sometimes we also just don't like understand opportunities that are going on for our team, or like what their life looks like outside of that. So, and I gave specific questions to them ahead of time. And then I actually didn't lead the meeting, but I was there. Kendall, my office manager, led it. And one of my systems, basically manager, Hannah, led it. And they started it and invited everybody to answer the question. And it was just super reflective to be able to say like, hey, some of our people are super tapped out, and that's where then our team gets to kind of hopefully step in and help those individuals. And some people aren't as tapped out, so now they can add more to their plate. Like it gave us a way. And then I was able, at the very end of it, was really able to give a lot of vision, a lot of mission, and just celebration for where we're going and who we are. And just, again, thanking them for being a part of it, but also inviting them to continue to be excited about what we're doing. So that's just how we've also adapted it. Like we were doing it for so long, and then they requested, hey, we would love to be able to do this as a whole. And I think it'd be really important for you to come in and give some vision and continue to give insight to that. So we do big review stuff. Currently, I'm so grateful. It's also, I've worked myself out of this to where I don't have to do all of my reviews, like Marisa was also saying. So we do annual performance reviews every year. But now my clinical director and my clinical director does the docs, and my office manager does all the CAs, and they report back to me. And then I will do once a year, like a 15 to 30 minute sit down with everybody if needed, especially if they're in something like, if they got questions about pay, vacation, like stuff like that are going to be more HR stuff that I still have a little bit of some say over. And then I will specifically meet with my leaders. So I still have that side of it, but then they will then meet with everybody else as well. So sure. Fun ways to be able to see how things can evolve as well as your team continues to grow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's important, again, keeping them on mission, keeping them on vision, and continuing to feed that into them, continuing to be that cheerleader for them and inspiring them is so important. We just did like our own sense of that, because I did notice like, that we were having like certain tasks fall by the wayside. So I did like a big check-in with my team and, hey, are you noticing certain roles having too many tasks, too little tasks? Do you feel like you're being productive during shift? Is there a reason why you wouldn't be? Is it because of patient facing? Is it because of other team members? What would we need to grow to the next level? What would you need to grow to the next level? What do I need as the doc to grow to the next level? And just kind of those check-in points. And they're not always the easiest conversations to have or to hear. And like for you to open up space for your team and ask them on a scale of 0 to 10, like how capped out in their capacity they are. And if you hear your team go all 10, I mean, it's better to freaking know that than to have to find out about it later, or someone's quitting because they're just like tapped out, so that you can address it and make changes. But I think that some leaders are very scared to ask those questions because of not what it would reflect on the business, but like almost it instills the fear in them, or it reflects about what their perspective of that team members process looks like. But having those conversations, sometimes I feel like when we have those harder conversations with our team, like the team morale changes. It's like having the tough conversation actually improves the team morale because you get to acknowledge it. Yeah. Acknowledge it, honor it, do something about it and move forward. Versus if you're avoiding a tension point.
Just creates more tension.
Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely. So I love that you did that. I love that you do that on a regular basis. It's one of the things that we talk about in our monthly meetings. You have to have, I would say, at least one regular check-in point, regardless whether if it's an anonymous survey or something. Like you just have to have something where you give people opportunity to provide harder feedback in that way so that you guys can all continue to grow together and as a team. Like we keep an anonymous feedback box in the back and I check it weekly just to see if there's a sticky note inside, right? Like even if someone doesn't want to have that specific face-to-face conversation, even if it means it's not handwritten, because I only have 5 team members, I pretty much know what their handwriting is. If it's a typed up note, no problem. Let's address it. Like, so there, again, we can go back on this topic day in and day out, but it's creating those safe spaces, and these meetings are still opportunities to do that. And I just encourage everybody not to shy away from those hard things because it's easy to go like kumbaya and celebrate the positives and celebrate the wins. And it may not be as easy to go into those harder conversation topics or talk about the struggle points because sometimes it doesn't always come with a solution.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the awareness first. And you have to sit it over and think about it. And you may not solve it then. And then you wonder if it's not solved, is it still happening? Is it still affecting someone? And that's like the beauty about working with people. It just is naturally going to ebb and flow.
It's true.
Well, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Heartwork podcast. Again, we're always here to inspire you, to help guide you along your way of being a leader, leading with your heart, keeping that why at the forefront so that you can continue to grow and grow your team and inspire your business, your practice, and your leadership skills to move to new heights. We'll see you next time.
Bye.